Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is another installment of BS Reviews. Today, I'll be looking at the fourth film in the Dragon Ball Z film franchise, also regretfully known as one of the worst Dragon Ball Z movies out of all 13 of them. Actually, it's considered to be the worst. I'm talking about Dragon Ball Z movie number 4, Lord Slug. Now, a little interesting background information about this film. Dragon Ball Z was originally dubbed and owned by Saban Home Entertainment and Pioneer. They would dub it with the what is considered the Ocean dub voice actors, and they dubbed the first three Dragon Ball Z movies as well, just Dragon Ball Z up to the Ginyu Force saga. The last film they dubbed was number 3, Tree of Might, and they released that in 1998. However, even after Funimation took over for Dragon Ball Z and started dubbing the remaining episodes, they didn't actually release the dubbed version of Lord Slug until 2001. This is the first time that they had ever released a Dragon Ball Z movie with the Funimation voice actors, but this is also the first time they actually used American music in the background. That's right, not the original Japanese music, American music. We're talking like Dust Brothers, Korn, Disturbed, Deftones. It was very weird. So it was a long wait for this movie, and people were wondering if it was really going to be worth it. And unfortunately, as you're going to find out, it really wasn't. Lord Slug is brought to you by Funimation Studios. It was directed by Mitsuyo Hashimoto and written by the creator himself, Akira Toriyama. It stars the vocal talent of Sean Schemmel as Goku, Stephanie Nadolny as Gohan, Christopher Sabat as Piccolo, Sonny Strait as Krillin, John Burgmeier as Angira, John Freeman as Dora Dobo, Sean Schemmel as Metamacha, and Brice Armstrong as Lord Slug. The plot of Lord Slug. An asteroid is rapidly approaching planet Earth, and supposedly it will destroy Earth upon impact. So when Goku and Krillin try to stop it, they soon discover that the asteroid is in fact an inhabited planet that is about to crash. They try and fail to stop the planet. Once the planet lands, they discovered that a dark organization led by a mysterious being known as Lord Slug has come to claim this planet in his name, and he plans to terraform it, which basically means they change the climate and the air and the temperature to fit their biological needs and make it their new home planet. Meeting with resistance from the Z fighters, we soon discovered that the leader, Lord Slug, is actually an elderly Namek. This is really not a surprise if you actually watch the movie, so trust me, I'm not spoiling anything. He finds the Dragon Balls and uses them to give himself eternal youth. Renewed his new power, he continues his invasion force, fighting against the Z fighters with his henchmen. Ultimately, Goku shows up and starts battling Lord Slug's henchmen, defeating them easily until he fights Lord Slug himself, who proves to have some truly unique powers, and which Goku must fight back with his own unique Super Saiyan powers in order to try and save the planet from being frozen to death. Review the plot. Right from the very beginning, we can already see this is going to be a very, very shitty mess. For those of you who, I don't know, saw Dragon Ball, the first series, you'll notice that this plot sounds staggeringly similar to King Piccolo, and you're quite right. The plot here is basically a ripoff of the King Piccolo saga, and having an elderly barbaric tyrant Namek come down, steal the Dragon Balls, and wish for eternal youth, and basically be a continuous badass by trying to conquer the planet with his new youth. The only difference here is that basically they made it more flashy and energy beamy and shit by putting it in Dragon Ball Z. I don't know what the real idea here was with the storyline, but it's pretty weak and pretty sad, even considering how flimsy the Dragon Ball Z storylines are. Well, not really flimsy, just more like simple. And this one is unfortunately already simple because we've seen it before. There is no real tension or drama in what actually happens, and there's not really much of a surprise with one thing, and that's involving Goku's Super Saiyan transformation, but I'll explain that later. But this story just really, we've already seen it, you know? It's the same frickin' King Piccolo saga, just with a different guy. I mean, sure, the henchmen are different, and you're dealing with Gohan Piccolo instead of Tien and Yamcha back then, but still, it's the same story. Review the characters. Pretty much all is the same simple stuff here. Piccolo actually stands out as a pretty prominent figure in this film, which is good for him, just a bad film to stand out in. He gets a lot of work out with the henchmen. I kind of call him the henchman killer if you ever see how he acts in most of these movies. And he actually pulls out some pretty interesting techniques and some interesting things about the dynamics that we never really learned about. Gohan is a pretty sizable role. He doesn't really do much. He kind of gets his butt kicked a little bit too much in here, at least more than usual. And most of the other, and they actually involve Bulma and Chi-Chi a little bit more than usual, which was nice. Didn't last too long, but now the other thing we got here is the new villains, which are all pretty much lame copy-offs of Frieza's henchmen. If you look at Dora Adobo, who's this spiky, bulgy guy, gargoyle-looking guy. If you look at Anguirra, who basically looks like a longer-haired version clone of Zarbon, they pretty much act and fight pretty much just like how Frieza's henchmen did back on the original Dragon Ball Z series. They're not very interesting. The only one that's kind of cool is Metamacha, and he's kind of poorly drawn with very little interesting details about him, other than he's a freaking weirdo. Lord Slug is a decent voice actor, and I gotta admit, as simple as he is being just another Namek bad guy and all, I like his costume. I think it's very colorful and unique and distinguishable. And probably the only cool thing about him is that towards the end he actually grows giant, and Goku has a big badass battle with him in the streets. And that's another thing I do like about this film. There's not a lot, but I like the fact that they actually take place in a city where they're fighting, which I think is something that they should do more often. Yes, it kills more people when they do that, but it's far more interesting to see in the endless Rocky Mountains that they continuously fight in most of the show. Review the animation and the music. Animation was actually quite good in most cases. It was very colorful. The armor suits for Lord Slug's men, his outfit, his henchmen's appearances. It was very brightly colored, particularly the battle sequence towards the end with, like I said, with the giant match between the giant Lord Slug and the Super Saiyan Goku and Piccolo. It was very well shot, and it had some beautiful energy colorizations. I mean, the energy flow around Goku and Piccolo towards the end. It just really had a great flashy, intense look, and I think it made the fight scenes that much more impressive, which are pretty good. It's probably one of the only few saving points of this, but it's mostly just happened with Lord Slug. The rest of them are kind of rehash fights and not that inventive. Music, I gotta say, as shitty as this movie was, one of the saving graces was just seeing it in music. I actually still have the Funimation version that's out of print where it still has the music from Korn and Disturbed and that. The only reason is because this movie is really so poorly made that the music is kind of a nice point, at least just to keeps your mind occupied off the shit that you're already watching. It's like watching a Dragon Ball Z music video off YouTube. So in that case, it kind of gets a good point, but I do have to admit it's kind of a poor idea when you could just use the Japanese music. Um, Flaws about the film. Gee, what haven't I already listed? Pretty much everything. This film is a sloppy storyline. It's been repeated, rehashed crap from the Dragon Ball saga. It's not a really interesting villain. You're having another Namek here. The fights are pretty poor, except for Lord Slug's fight with Goku. But by far the biggest dumbass thing this movie did has to be with the Super Saiyan Goku. Now, Goku had never turned Super Saiyan up until this movie, and he actually doesn't really go officially Super Saiyan until the fifth film with Cooler. Why do I say that? Because in this film, they associate his Super Saiyan with just getting the golden glow around him. He doesn't get the golden hair, he just gets like a golden Kaioken kind of glow around him, and his eyes go white. I don't know what the frick it is, really. It's like some sort of retarded halfway Super Saiyan checkpoint or something. I really don't know what the frick it is. Why they decided to do it. It's so mind-bogglingly stupid to do that when you just easily put the Super Saiyan thing, the real one, in there. Why they did this, I just can't fathom it. There's no way I can honestly explain it. I've thought it over a million times, but there was no reason for them to do any of this that way. Final wrap-up. When people say, talk shit about a movie, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not, but in this case, they're dead on. This is easily the worst movie out of all 13 Dragon Ball Z movies. It's just piss poor. It has a cool fight with Lord Slug when he grows giant, but other than that, there's nothing else to really bark about. The animation is colorful, but not enough to save a boring movie with a rehashed plot that was already done much better in Dragon Ball. The fights are not that inventive. The music is taken from American artists, which are not really needed here. There's nothing interesting, nothing surprising, nothing here. And it kind of just really bums you out to know that it took so long to get this movie out. To wait for the next Dragon Ball Z movie, your Tree of Might, because I think the first three are the best. And then you come to this and it's like, good God, we're in Shitsville. It's a big, major disappointment at every conceivable level, even for a diehard fan like me. Bottom line, I give Lord Slug 1.5 stars out of 5 stars. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.